Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about this. This is the wireless Crimson Red 8-bit arcade pad for the Sega Genesis by RetroBit. We'll talk all about this, obviously, but if you guys could indulge me for 1 second, if you guys could please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't done that already, as well as hit me up in the social media stuff in the description, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, etc. I appreciate the support. Check out my new channel, Flying and Eating, which is about adventuring, flying and eating, etc. I appreciate that as always. Now, on to this. Yes, we're going to be doing another video on the Sega Genesis. This one was kind of accidental. I wasn't really intending to do this. I was recently a guest at Portland Retro Game Expo, PRGE, out in Portland, Oregon. And I was just walking around the show floor, and I got over to the RetroBit booth, and I was just kind of looking at their stuff. And I was wearing a Blockbuster shirt at the time. Now, the Blockbuster World Championship, which I was actually hosting, was over there. So I was wearing that shirt. And they asked me, they just assumed I worked for the Blockbuster. And so we were making conversation for a second. And then I was like, oh, no, I don't work there. I'm actually a YouTuber. And then one guy said, wait, yeah, I've seen your reviews. You did videos of our stuff. And I was like, yeah, I've done some stuff in the past. And he's like, oh, well, here you go, man. And he just handed me this. So thanks. He didn't have to do that. I told him, like, you don't have to do that. It's fine. He's like, yeah, no problem. So I thought that was really nice of him to do, so I would hook you guys up with this. The funny thing about this is I have actually reviewed the wired version of this that RetroBit put out a while ago. And I've also done a video on the wireless Saturn controller, but I never had the wireless Genesis one that they produced. So, yeah, I thought, why not? So I've got a whole bunch of different versions of the Genesis here. I've also got a Master System. I've got the Genesis Mini. I was thinking what I would do is, logically so, because I haven't used it yet, is open it up, charge it, take a look at it, see how it actually performs. If it's anything like the Saturn one, I'm sure it'll be great. The cool thing about these is these are actually licensed by Sega. Sega turned over the molding and the rights, and these aren't like any weird like off-brand third-party thing that is not okay with anybody. These are official, or as official as it can possibly get. I would actually say if it works as well as the Saturn one, that it's a huge upgrade over the originals. But it does have some additional support that's kind of interesting. So obviously it works with the Sega Genesis. I would assume all variants, hence I've got a 1, 2, and 3 here. But when I say all variants, you know, it's the Sega Genesis. It has a bajillion things. I'm not going to test it with like the Pioneer Laser Active, but I'm sure it would work. Anything that used an actual stock Genesis controller should work just fine. So like a CDX, Wonder Mega, JVC XI, the Iowa one, the Boombox one, whatever you got, because the Genesis was in everything, I'm sure it'll work. I don't know about the aftermarket ones like Retrons and like that Mega SGs and stuff like that. Those I don't know because I don't have any of those. I only have the original hardware with one exception, which we'll get to in a second. But it should work with all of them. Officially, it does claim to support the Sega Genesis. So there you go. It also claims to support the Sega Genesis Mini right here. Of course, this is the legacy, throwback mini console that Sega made of the Genesis itself. I did a review on this a while back. I asked them specifically about the Genesis Mini 2, and the guy was pretty sure it would work, which he didn't totally know that. So I would assume it would, because there's really no reason it would have changed. But he didn't have one on hand because Sega hadn't sent them out yet. So the assumption is that it does. It also works with PC and Mac if you want to play on a console, or on a PC, sorry, obviously it's not a console. It also works on the PlayStation 3, which is an interesting little bonus because PS3 is very USB open source into letting stuff work. However, I would imagine it works the same way that most USB controllers do on the PS3, which is kind of in a limited fashion, especially since this is missing certain buttons that would be necessary. But if you were to play, say, the Sonic Ultimate HD Genesis Collection that was released on the PS3, presumably it would go very well with this. But yes, it does work on that. And it works on the Nintendo Switch, which once again allows a lot of open source USB things. That one I think would be more interesting just because of the sheer number of Sega Genesis re-releases that have been on there, or games that feel like they should be, kind of like Sonic Mania. Would be kind of fun to play on the Switch with this thing. But either way, it does work on all those. It does not actually mention the Sega Master System. I know people tend to forget the Sega Master System here was not Sega's first console, but it was their first console in North America, and most people, unless you're in Europe or Brazil, most people never even know the Master System seemed to exist. It should work, because it uses Sega Genesis controller ports, and really every Sega Genesis controller works on it, but they don't mention it. Now, I'm wondering if they don't mention it just because it has no market viability in North America, but if you're releasing this in Europe, that really should be on the box somewhere, unless it doesn't actually work. But we will find out for ourselves. But yeah, that's about it. So if you want to pick one of these up, I'll put the link in the description to Castlevania Games. Even though Castlevania Games wasn't the one who gave it to me, I know Ryan's a good guy, and I know he'll have them in stock. So let's go ahead and take a look at it first. So inside, we unbox it here. To be fair, there was tape on this. I cut the tape just in the interest of time. We take it out, and you get one of these cool cases. The Saturn one actually came in a case just like this. And we pop it open, and inside you'll have... It's got this layer of film on it. I'm actually going to take that off. We don't need that. There you go. Get rid of that. So that way it looks nicer. And underneath you have the controller itself, which also has a little layer of film, as well as two little dongles. One is the USB dongle, which, to be honest, we're not going to make any really use out of. This is how you would connect it to PC, PS3, Switch, and obviously any USB-based device. This is, I'm assuming also, if there were any sort of firmware updates, they would probably run through this thing, but I guess I don't totally know that. However, for our purposes, we're not really going to be using that. The other thing that is more important here is the Genesis dongle. Now this is actually what you would connect to the console itself, and then it will sync with the controller, and then that's how they communicate, and thus you can use it. This is what you would use on an actual Genesis console, and presumably a Master System. It does have a USB micro port on it, which I'm not totally sure the purpose of. Originally I thought you had to charge these things, like with the Saturn one. It has that, and so for the longest time, oh, you got to charge it, which seemed kind of pointless, but you totally don't. So it's, I imagine the reason it might be there is for for some sort of firmware updates, but again, I don't really know that to be certain. But either way, that thing exists, and then we have the controller that has the little layer of film thing, which we're going to, so nice, get rid of that. I like the color scheme. I mean, you know, crimson red. It kind of gives me this Christmas vibe. It actually matches essentially the original box art that Sega used to use, the traditional red back there, which is kind of funny that they never actually, as far as I know, I don't remember them ever releasing a red controller. It's kind of nice to see an upgrade after all these years. It is the 6-button model as opposed to the traditional 3-button model, which I guess some people have mixed feelings on. I think most people seem to like the 6-button version more. I remember the 3-button controllers so much more that that's kind of my general preference. I got nothing against this controller. It's just the majority of Genesis games don't actually need the extra buttons, so it's just kind of a little bit of overkill. This is mostly useful. I think this game, if I recall correctly, I believe that Street Fighter 2 is the reason they eventually redesigned the controller specifically to have extra buttons. Of course, there are 32X and Sega CD games, especially, that use this, and it's not that there aren't other Genesis games that do. This is the better controller as far as compatibility goes, with the wider array of support, but there's still that part of me that's just like, I like the old Genesis 3-button bean controller, what can I say? But I do quite enjoy this. So now, yeah, what we're going to do is, like any wireless device that you need to charge, we should go do that and let it sit and finish charging for a while. Alright, so I've been using the Genesis controller for a little while now, and time for final thoughts. Honestly, it's pretty good. It pretty much matches exactly what I thought of the Saturn version of this. If you like the idea of the 6-button Sega Genesis controller and having it wirelessly, you really can't ask for a better solution. This is great. Like, you have to, I think you would already know going in if you like that controller or not. Now just take it and imagine it's wireless. Ooh, problem solved. Yeah, it was super responsive. It connected pretty much immediately. I really only had one little flaw with it, which was the initial sync process wasn't the smoothest. And it just didn't want to connect right away. So when I pressed like a button there, pressed here, pressed some syncing buttons, then it connected, and then it was good to go. I had zero issues since. It totally works perfectly on the Sega Genesis, as was expected, and I don't know why they don't mention it, but yes, it does totally work on the Sega Master System. I think it's just not mentioned on the box because it has no market viability in North America. For European releases, though, they really should put that on there. But yeah, it totally worked great on there. yeah, it's the battery life was pretty solid. It didn't take all of that long to charge all the way through. Yeah, it's pretty good. And like any wireless controller, like once you're done with it, you're probably good to let it charge a bit more. But yeah, I really like the color too. It makes me kind of want like a crimson red Genesis to match it. But here, let me go ahead and show it to you in action. So we have a Sega Genesis set up here. Obviously, we're going to take Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, because it's nice and bright and colorful and everything. Turn it on. So what'll happen is the little dongle will receive power from the console itself. Now the controller won't do anything until you press the button. The dongle is kind of flashing red, and once you press this, it will start looking for the dongle, and then it should sync up, and then they both get to a solid red state, and there you go, they're running just fine. Now you'll have to forgive me because I cannot in any way, shape, or form see the screen, so I'll have to do that. Press start. Pressing start right away, and yeah, Ivan News, he did Power Ranger stuff. I grew up on this. This show's over 30 years old, children of the 90s, just telling you. We're gonna play as the Red Ranger just because that seems logical given the controller, and I'm going to suck beyond suck because I can't see anything, but yeah, look, there I am. Let me, okay, that's my attack move. Boom, we got the little, I can't see anything, but it's super responsive. The problem isn't that the problem is not the controller. It's that I can't see what I'm doing. But I think all things considered, I'm doing okay. Boom, boom. Yeah, for yeah, one of the best ways to see if there's any sort of like lag problems is to test like some sort of fighting game or beat 'em up game because they'll make it really obvious really quick. But yeah, I'm just gonna be honest. Off camera, when I did this, I really had no issues. So yeah, this works great. I would highly recommend this. You can get this at RetroBit's website, but I would also recommend getting it at Castlevania Games because once again, Ryan is an awesome guy. So I'll put links in the description. You can check it out. Huge shout out to them because again, they gave this to me for free. They did not have to do that. They didn't even request that I did a review. I think this was more of like a hey, thanks for doing stuff on our products over the years type of thing. So I want to pay it forward. That's how you know they're legit nice guys. So thank you very much to them. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys could do me a favor, please like, comment, subscribe, hit me up in the social media stuff again in the description, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, etc., as well as the new channel, Flying and Eating. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all later.